like all this humanitarian aid and stuff that we sent to Africa and like all this kind of stuff, we did it when America was in abundance. In other words, we had excess.
Hello, welcome to the Hard Reset. What just happened? The amount of money that we send to other countries, which I know you cannot solve all problems with money. I fully get that. I'm not even trying to make that argument. Yeah. It's just a simple fact of a lot of those issues could be solved with financial things.
Well,
and it's like, why in the hell
there's been plenty of senators and other people that they've brought up that exact topic. Anytime the VA has been brought up, they'll say it's a political thing. Like it's, whether it was the Republicans it'd be the Democrats saying, you guys are wasting money, sending money wherever else when it could be better used for the VA. Well, then next thing you know, the administration shift and it's now the Democrats and the Republicans say, hey, why are you sending whatever it was, however many million over to Iran for women's gender studies or whatever it is, because that could be used here at home. And nothing ever really gets done. I mean, we send, what was it during was that during the Obama administration, something where they sent essentially a payoff to Iran for some reason or another. And it was like a pallet full of money. And that was one of the complaints that they had then, the Republicans had then, saying, hey, do you realize there's a large homeless population that,
a lot of that
benefit from,
not be solved by money.
Dollars.
A lot of it could not be solved by money.
No, but I'm just saying though, it's you're labeled what do you call it? You're essentially labeled more or less like a nationalist in a bad way. You're running around yelling "Go America" too much if you say things like "Let's take care of our own first." Well,
I wonder at what point in time is that actually, or how do you get that mindset of we need to worry about other countries and other people before we take care? It's kind of, I think in my mind I feel like you should probably clean up your backyard before you go clean up somebody else's backyard.
Other countries do exactly that.
There's been countries like, hey, you know what? No, we're not going to get involved in this because we need to fix our own problems first.
Well, for some reason over here, and I think it goes back to, and it's just my humble opinion, is like all this humanitarian aid and stuff that we sent to Africa, we did it when America was in abundance. In other words, we had excess, which we're talking like. Okay,
so I can agree with you. We had excess, but at the same time, I will make the argument with you that it doesn't matter if you have excess. It is, are they going to use it in the right way?
Yeah.
Which 9 times out of 10, it's not being used in the right way.
I agree. But here's the thing is I think it started out that we were in good times at one point. We had a little bit of excess.
Okay.
And so we wanted to kind of show, we thought it was like our obligation as a country to help other countries. And so we started sending money to places like, remember when Africa was a big deal, starving children in the Africa. They had all these
musicians got together, made a big song.
They had a big commercial
garbage.
And,
I shouldn't say garbage. It wasn't garbage.
Well, I'm just saying it during that time we had an abundance, or we thought we had extra.
That was called was it Farm Aid?
Yeah, Farm Aid
or something like that.
They sang "We Are the World" and like all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So I think it started out as a good cause, right? But the problem is once you give politicians extra money to do extracurricular things outside of our country, it's like giving somebody power, and then they'll never give it up once you give it to them, right? So we gave them power. In this case, we put them in charge of certain financial things that allowed them to kind of distribute money as they saw fit. Well, then you had, people getting their hands in there and being like, hey, if we start putting some of this stuff in a slush fund over here, we can use a little bit of this money, and let's pay off of this government over here, because that'll stabilize it graduated into, let's pay off this little country over here to be in our favor because that'll stabilize the region. For example, like the Middle East, we'll go give some money to this little dictator over here, and we'll keep him in our favor, and we'll have him kind of stabilize the region, right? That's kind of like the, what do you call it? Like the intelligence agencies. That's their famous thing, is essentially they supposedly they stop wars by intervene
and
prior
historically, it has never actually worked.
It's never worked.
It's never worked.
It's never worked. It didn't work in Africa. I mean, they had, we talked about it on the one podcast about what they called executive outcomes, which was a mercenary group, basically, that they, was hired to go in there, and they took over whatever it was, the Democratic Republic of Congo or something. And they basically made a coup out of it, right? They changed hands. In other words, they put another person in power.
Right. Well, I mean,
and it didn't matter. It was like 2 months later, there was another coup, or they didn't like whoever they put in there. And so all that was for naught. Right.
The U.S. Put somebody in power. They funded it. They backed it. They made sure it happened. And now we're dumping even more money into that country.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it was like, you know what? It was never going to work. Mm-hmm. And now it's become this huge, giant disaster. But so rather than, let's just say, for instance, right now, there's politicians that are promoting violence of any sort to get whatever you want. Yeah. And then ignoring the amount of money that was sent over to this country recently. And this is just cash. This isn't arms. This isn't anything like that. Could have actually been placed at every public school, could have been able to, in public school, not private, $400,000 per year to have private security and put in security protocols. Nobody's going to walk into that school. Nobody's probably going to come onto those grounds. Man, that I can't grasp how we're going to pay the Azov battalion, which is actually a Nazi wing, flat out Nazi with a fucking swastika all day long.
Jesus. Yeah.
We're going to send them money. We're going to send them ammunition. We're going to send them guns, rockets, whatever they want. Even when the U.S. Placed a government in place, and the Azov battalion even looked at that so-called president and said, "You're not a real president. You're a puppet, and you were placed here by the U.S. We're not going to take you seriously." Yeah. But yet now we're going to send them whatever they possibly want to shoot their own people. Yeah. And to shoot the enemy. And I hate to sound selfish, but quit worrying about all these other countries that really don't give a shit about your country.
Here's the thing, dare I say it, and this is, probably people are going to use the term selfish, but we have no vested interest in the Ukraine.
Well, we do, because we put up biolabs, and we did actually invest a lot of money in placing a democratic government. I know,
but what's the theory behind us putting the biolabs in?
Because you can't do that here in the U.S.
Exactly. So
we can place a government into another country, and we can do our experiments there.
Well, I'm just saying, why would we do, why is that not some type of violation that we shouldn't be doing in the first? Why would it be okay? And basically you're backing a wrong to protect a wrong. If that makes any sense. In other words, you knowingly put biolabs in a country because you're not supposed to do it here. Protocols are not in place, whatever. And
so you would think you do it in your own country so you could have control over it and make sure it was done right.
So now that Russia's threatened to invade said country, that you have the labs there that shouldn't be there in the first place, you are going to invent a whole war just to protect. I'm not to say that the Ukraine war is invented, but I'm just saying you will go to great lengths, back a country, get this media on board to make, free Ukraine, and everybody's got a flag on their Facebook pages. You're going to do all this stuff.
I don't mean
in order to protect where these biolabs that shouldn't have been there in the first place. I promise you, if those biolabs weren't there, that'd be a blip on our radar.
No, right. No,
we would go with the real narrative, whereas Ukraine has always been a part of Russia, and that's just kind of like an internal turmoil that they're just going to have to sort out.
Yeah. Right. They had options.
And you may have down here in the small section, CNN or something, you may have like one little thing down there that's about war erupted in Ukraine, whatever. Right. They're seeking their liberation. That's it. That's the only thing you heard about it. Not all this stuff that we have, but we are putting our noses historically speaking, and I'm not beating up on the Democrats, but they've always yelled about, we have homeless here. We have, whatever. They think the Republicans are warmongers, and they are the military industrial complex.
I don't know how many Republicans has actually put us in a situation of war.
We've had both sides here.
Oh, no, I understand that. But I'm just saying the number of times that the U.S. has actually gone to war, that we had a Republican leader.
I don't know what the statistics are on. I'm trying to think
I'd have to look
who was up. What during what wars.
How many people, when you go into Friend Face, Twatter, UTUB, whatever.
Yeah.
They've got their little Ukrainian pin on them. Now, if you put the Ukrainian pin with the yellow and the blue, and then you put a swastika on that, how many of them would still actually support that?
Oh, yeah.
Or actually, how many of them know that's what they're actually supporting? Because, I mean, the Azov Battalion has been in the Ukraine since the overthrow of the government that the U.S. had actually supported from day one. So they always knew that was part of it. Zelensky has also always known that was part of it because they laughed in his face. But at the same time, he's okay with handing them guns and telling them to go do whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, so I mean, is that what the U.S. is doing right now? Or are we just simply...
Historically speaking, that's what we've always done. Like, we don't care how they get the job done. We just throw money at them. Just get the job done? Yeah, we throw money at them because we want to they'll use terms like stabilize the region.
Okay, well, so right. let's say we threw a bunch of money at the U.S. And we stabilized all the homeless people. We got the VA hospitals to where they were properly staffed.
Yeah.
And people were comfortable because I have some very close family members that are actually in hospitals right now. And the stuff that I hear is horrific.
Oh,
and what it boils down to is they're understaffed. They have been for a long time.
Yeah, years. Understaffed for years.
There is the amount of paperwork to get something very simple done. It should be very simple. It should simply be your name, your social security number. These are your benefits. And this is what we're going to take care of. And we have got doctors. We have got
part
staff.
Of the problem, though, is the VA is Veterans Administration. It's a government ran.
Okay, so let's just say
the minute you do that, that's where all that red tape comes from. You have a whole nerdatorium of people that are part of like the budget section of the government that handles all of these different VA, Homeland Security, like all this kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Their sole job is they're the accountant section. And so they're like, all these other agencies have 27 forms because we need to know where our money's going. They claim accountability, blah, blah, blah. But they make it to the point to where it's so hard to get anything done. And then what happens is the VA is part of the government. So they do the same thing to them, except for they don't care about the human factor of the guy sitting over there and his legs got gangrene.
Right.
They just think that those same forms that it takes for you to do something in another agency, we're going to apply it to this because we blanket whatever, because we want to know where our money's going. And it justifies a bunch of accountants is what it does. All that paperwork.
So it's just kind of like theater then.
It is. At that point. It is. It's a classic, the military term is, we call it a dog and pony show. It's like, it's a dog and pony
part
show.
Of many of those. Holy crap.
Yeah. They have some spokesperson that has really fancy words and will tell you why that they have, 27 sheets of paper to admit one person into the VA. Obviously the guy sitting there, he has no legs. They can verify through his DD-214 that if he's in fact, injured in combat and he's a combat veteran or whatever.
Right.
Like one sheet of paper can tell you everything you need to know about a vet. A legit DD-214 will pretty much tell you that, along with their medical records, will tell you their disability and the fact that they were a vet in this certain conflict and whatever else. But they'll take 30 more pieces of paper that you have to fill out in triplicate to verify something that the government, by the way, the government's the ones that produces, the military branch is the ones that produce, which is an entity of the government, it's the one that produces VA medical records for you as a veteran while you're still in the military to be able to pick up and take to the VA when you need the VA.
Right.
And they produce the DD-214, which is a government document, Defense Department DD-214, that shows you in other words, it's considered a government document.
Right.
Those two, between that and your VA records, will tell you everything you need to know about getting this person help at the VA. And they'll go put them on a gurney and they'll set them somewhere and tell them that they need to fill out these other 30 forms to verify those two paper that's already been verified and vetted 25 ways from Sunday while they were during their military service. Right. And the VA records that they give you, when you're ETS, in other words, you end your service, or EAS, as they call it in the Marine Corps, when you get out of the Army or you get out of the get out of any branch of the Marines or any branch of the military, the last thing you do, they have to give you, they basically verify your medical records. In other words, you go through an Army doctor. And so the records that you leave with are VA records. They're veteran administrative records. And the whole point is so you can hand carry that. And so a year later, something starts acting up and they've